If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend.
Don't you just love that song? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Central Valley Talk. My name is Ray Johns. The name of the show is Voices Not Yet Heard. And like we say every week, we hope that perhaps today your voice will get heard. We have Gary Miguel back with us today, and I'm kind of excited because every time he's here, he's so informative. I learn a lot, and so it's fun having him here. But before I reintroduce him to you, we've been talking of late about the football players kneeling, and I told you I've not seen a football game. I won't until they stop doing it. Apparently they continue to, and so I will continue not to watch football. It's my own little protest. You know what I did? I did a little due diligence the last couple of days, and I went back from the Revolutionary War to the War of 1812 to the French-Indian War, all the wars, Spanish-American War, even the war in the Philippines, and of course the major wars, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf Wars. And surprisingly enough, actually it isn't that surprising, there were a lot of African Americans killed in each one of those wars, starting with the Revolutionary War. Now, I think it's a slap in the face to any American when they do this. I do. When you can't stand and pledge allegiance to this country, then in this man's opinion, you shouldn't be here. If you want to protest, it's fine. Don't use what we hold in such high regard as a way to do it. It is wrong. As I told you last week, my mother had a saying, what's right is right. Well, this is not right. It is wrong. So please, give it some thought. The people that are doing it, please give it some thought. Stop it. It's time to stop it. And I've got Gary Miguel here.
How we doing, Ray?
Welcome back, buddy.
Good to see you.
What do you think?
Well, I like that. I think that it's important that in this sense the country has gotten to where there's been a lot of people, that being an example of bringing it to the head, that are anti-American and demonstrate it, and to where the point of certain sacred things that should be sacred are being tramped on. And there again, back to Trump. Had he not brought it up, it wouldn't be a conversation, and it's creating the kind of thing that we need to have created, which is a division of the people getting back and starting to say, well, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right.
I can't, people are starting to ask. And so it's a people able to look in themselves and say, am I a patriot or am I not a patriot? Am I an American or am I not? And if you disregard...
It's an identification thing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And insult, the American values such as the flag or the anthem. I mean, there are a lot of, like you said, there are a lot of people that
there's nothing higher, Gary, as far as I'm concerned, as a patriot.
And I think these people, obviously, it's black players, but they're being used by something way bigger, and they find us naive, gullible, if you will, and then they utilize that, and these people are just.
That's why Kaepernick was so. He was a perfect one. He was a perfect. Yeah. He was a perfect pawn.
Yeah, exactly. And so, the fact that it's now coming out to the people's attention to the point to where, as you said, you do not watch the game on TV.
Well, I haven't seen one game yet,
and I haven't either,
and I will not.
And neither are, of course, countless others.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So it brings it out to the surface, as so people now can ask themselves, where am I? Who am I? and it forces us to answer those questions, where as opposed to just
Good point,
letting
Gary.
it go by.
Excellent point. Yeah, I
You
can
know.
see that.
And so for each and every one of us, it's an opportunity, and the thing's not working because the NFL. In fact, they're even talking about doing away with Monday Night Football. because
You
they're
told me
losing so
that.
much
Yeah.
money, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to cost a lot of players a lot of money.
Well, I like what you said last
You
week
know.
or a week or two when you said the new players coming along now aren't going to make the money that
Oh, of
these
course
guys are
not.
making,
No.
and that made sense.
No.
you know.
And they're not going to have the NFL owners are not going to be favored in terms of stadiums and the taxes, the tax exempt portions of that. They're going to have to pay their way from now on.
Yeah.
Because it woke America up. I guess mainly the main underlying word of that particular part of is it's an awareness, and this came to a point where it now is being addressed, and people are making their decisions, and the outcome may or may not be anywhere near what was the intended.
Oh, I think that's
see.
probably very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and then it carries on to other things, and people start to ask questions. Well, wait a minute, why isn't there an American flag in my classroom? It just goes
Why
on.
aren't they saying the Pledge of Allegiance anymore?
And Trump seen this as the country becoming less and less patriotic, and things that were at one time sacred become less and less to no value to a lot of people. And he said, we got to change this.
Yeah.
We got to change the attitude to how people value certain things of their country, regardless. It has nothing to do with what color you are or gender you are.
As awful as 911 was, and we all know that, it did one thing. It went a long ways toward uniting this country. You couldn't drive out in the country down a street without seeing a street full of flags.
Yeah.
Every day. I love that.
Well, this is what things like that happen, and it's like the hypocrisy of Hollywood, which is our media.
Yeah.
Okay, take those three areas or those two areas. You take what has gone on with the NFL and how this is now being used as a lightning rod, I guess, for us to sit there and take a self-inflection on ourselves and say, well, where do I stand on this? What's important to me? Okay, and then you go into Hollywood with its hypocrisy. You see what's happening with that thing, and it's carrying on all across the nation.
Oh, and now all the things that
Yeah.
just starting to break out.
Right.
With.
So those are questions that people had been, well, that's Hollywood. That's Hollywood. Well, it's a little more serious now, and this thing is coming to light where people are now going to say, is this the kind of values these people have and what I want my children to grow up with and so forth?
Yeah.
So these are all, I guess, bricks
Yeah.
that go into the foundation of what we say is going to be important to us in terms of a culture and in terms of how we value or place values
Very
on,
well put.
on the culture.
Yeah.
So I'm all for it. I enjoy watching it play itself out the way
Yeah.
it is.
It's interesting, isn't it, Gary?
Yeah,
it's-
and it does it does have a lot.
I don't even know. I'm going to ask you right here on live radio. I'm going to ask you right here because I don't know. I assume that did any more people kneel this week? Because I don't know. It's a lot more.
Not
does
a
it
lot
get
more, but there was
more than usual, or than.
not more than Neil. No, there's less than there. It's getting less and less.
Oh, that's good news. See, I
Yeah.
didn't know that. That's good.
Yeah. Now there was the South Carolina girls team that boycotted going to the White House because you know how the president always has the championship team come. Well, those girls are just useful idiots again.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
once
a
in a
chance
life-
in a lifetime.
Are you kidding? If I'd have been on that team, I'd say, you fools can stay here if you want to. I'm going.
Well,
Yeah.
it's bringing out for a lot of people to realize. I just seen that on the internet today, where more and more people are realizing how the left, I call them communists, you call them whatever you want,
Yeah.
and who are actually trying to divide this country and divide the citizens, and they use these tactics to do so. And people are starting to question that a little bit. In fact, they were going to have a big rally. It was on November 4th, and it was supposed to be all the anti-Trumpers were going to go and rally. They had 20 people show up. because the money was gone. These people have been getting paid.
Well, of course they have.
And so when the money was gone, so what happens with that? Well, you got the kind of people that are doing that and supplying the money. A lot of those people are pretty nervous right now because the process of draining the swamp is happening as we said.
Yeah.
And so, these people that are the corrupt and the crooked and the criminal, that own the newspapers and the media and all that.
They're
sitting on edge right now because there's going to be a real wholesale slaughter.
I love it.
And okay, so we kind of got that background. All right, let's go to something I think is happening.
Good.
And it'll be first you hear it on the show.
Okay, first time heard on
the
show.
but the thing is that Saudi Arabia has begun draining their swamp. And there's a lot of people having, reasons why, Well, at this point, it's opinion, so I'm going to express mine. And here's the thing you want to kind of think about. One of the first phone calls that Trump got when he was elected president came from the king of Saudi Arabia.
Absolutely, I remember that.
You remember
I remember that, yeah.
Okay, the first country that Trump went to was Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
The first guest that came to the White House, Saudi Arabia. From a foreign country. Okay, and then now you start to tie all this stuff in one way or form, and there's a number of opinions about that, and that's fine, right? So here's my opinion. Trump goes with the Saudi king, and they both want to purge their swamp. Well, the king has this princes, which in that kingdom, their kingdom, there's 15,000 relatives and stuff.
Oh my goodness!
And of course they're all prince, and they're billionaires. But some of them's crooked as the dog's hind leg.
Well, sure. Yeah.
So anyway, these people own parts of companies that are in the United States. They own corporations. They own a lot of things, and a number of them own congressmen and senators to get favors they want.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, now think about this. Trump's got this swamp to drain, and he's got all these swamp rats that he needs to get rid of. How can he go about doing that? Well, one way he could go about going about doing that is stop their money.
That's always the way.
That's always the way. So the Saudi king has to go first. And what he does, he tied up, the last count I got was 1,700, probably over 2,000 individual bank accounts of these princes. So they can't touch their money.
Whoa.
Okay, now, if they haven't got money, then they can't bribe, right? Because they don't have money to pay the bribe.
Yeah.
All right, so what happens then?
Excuse me.
He goes in, he starts arresting these people. And they're in house arrest. They're in not fancy hotels. It's not a jail, but they're all arrested with, you might say, in their jail cells, a luxurious hotel room. But their bank accounts are frozen. So they can't be paying our swamp rats that they've been paying to get favors done for them.
Oh boy, it's going to hit the fan, isn't it?
So, and now what else happens?
I can just see.
They don't have the money. Our people, our swamp rats, don't have the money to defend themselves. Because the Saudis can't pay them.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden now you're sitting there, Congressman A, and you all of a sudden receive an indictment, and now you have to defend yourself, but you don't have the money's gone. So where are you? So my thought is that this is part of the big plan of draining the swamp, and the first one that had to start draining first was the Saudi Arabians. Stop the money flow.
Sure.
And now we can get on with our draining of the swamp, because it's going to take several years, you see.
Well, that's going to be major, isn't it?
But just think, what if all the money is cut off? How would you feel if you happened to be one of those swamp rats?
Helpless.
You'd be pretty nervous right now, And so I kind of think that this is part of a master Trump plan that he has, and it's interesting how it was the Saudis first, and then you look at it, you think, well, it can only be that way.
Yeah, you've got to stop.
Otherwise, if you go here, the Saudis keep pouring money, and
nothing changes.
You start
nothing
there.
Changes. Yeah.
And it's the same thing with the the draining of the swamp. which means the crooked politicians, which is about all of them. There's another way they bribe besides money. Think about this. Think about, at one time it was money only, but now think about this. Because of information, the way we can gather information now, it's incredible, right? Because of
the internet and everything.
Yeah, and everything else.
Absolutely.
Every one of those congressmen or senators, they have a skeleton in their closet. How many of them can be compromised by the fact, and this is what we're seeing. Look at all of a sudden Franken.
Sure.
Now, that's not money, that's just reputation.
Sure.
And so anyone sitting in Congress today goes back on their life, there's got to be something that somebody can use against me that I don't want to come out.
Oh, of course. They find it on anyone.
Yeah.
They can
And
find
so-
it on anybody.
So they're compromised in that regard. They're compromised as far as money, and I think that you're going to see a lot of heads roll.
Yeah.
And this is all part of the plan. And the fact that I don't know for a fact, but I think goes back to Saudi Arabia and Trump and the way
It makes sense,
went.
Gary.
Now think about this. Why was it that Hillary and all them were not investigated, but all year we've investigated Trump? Here's what I think. I think Trump, in a way, welcomed that investigation, knowing full well that there was nothing there. So now that they have spent all that time and all that effort and
Like the
exposed
collusion
all
with
that,
the Russians, and they found out nothing after all that time.
all of that, but what happened in the meantime? How in the world then can they come back as they now go into them? Because they are investigating Hillary Clinton and all
Absolutely.
that. How can they come back and say, well, how
How do
about
you-
Trump? Well, Trump was first.
How do you sell millions of dollars to uranium to a country, and that uranium will only be used, think about this, for one thing. There's only one thing it's going to be used for. Awful.
Well, and then the thing is, we're importing uranium, ourselves. And here we are, that's treason.
It's insane.
That's treason. Okay, because now they've given the capability for money, and come on, $140 million goes into the Clinton bank account,
Oh, jeez.
and 20% of our uranium goes overseas to what supposedly is an enemy, Russia.
Yeah.
So,
And like we said, what are they going to do with it? We know what they're going to do with it. What would any country do with it?
right. But I kind of like the idea, in looking back at, let's say that I'm correct on this, as far as the Saudi, it makes sense that the Saudi would have to go first, freeze the bank account so that they can't keep paying our crooks.
Sure. Because
Now we
nothing would
go
change
after
if
our
they
crooks.
did. Nothing would change
Yeah,
if they did.
so now we
Yeah.
go after our crooks, and they can't be paid off because there's no money to pay them off. So it makes it more sense now. We can go after our crooks. Okay, then we get.
Well, he set that up just beautiful.
And then you go back to, well, go ahead, Ray, investigate the heck out of me. I'll go first. You know?
Yeah. No, like you said, knowing there's nothing there.
No one left there, and now they're getting you. Now it's your turn. You say, oh, you can't come back and say, well, by God, how come they didn't do him? No, they did him. And
They did him and found nothing.
And found nothing. and they did a thorough job. But at the meantime, now they come back, they have no recourse.
Yeah.
And so this is where I see the beginning of the end, if you will. And then you go into the foreign policy. One of the thoughts about Trump was he would not understand foreign policy and foreign relations. My God, you know that he went over, and there is no longer a caliphate of ISIS in the Mideast. He did that in 8 months. How
I know he
many
did.
years did Obama sit there and had it spread? How come he didn't stop it? You know?
I don't think he wanted to stop it.
Of course not.
You know?
And that's going to come out down
Sure
the
it
road.
is.
And,
Sure it is.
You know, so, and as far as the North Koreans, and that is what this trip over there is all about, is to get China, as well as some other nations, to finally put the sanctions that actually caused that North Korean to have to change. And it'll be to his benefit.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, he's got rid of the ISIS, he's increased the GDP, which is economics is everything for all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, he's doubled it from what Obama had, and he did it in 8 months. Obama took him 8 years,
8 years.
and he couldn't ever.
He never did it.
Yeah, and half as much.
Yeah.
And so then, and if you look at ISIS was growing, of course there's ISIS scattered throughout the world, but they no longer have a caliphate, and Obama could not solve it.
Yeah, you don't even hear of them anymore. Remember, they were in the news daily.
And so they're wiped out. Now it's a matter of what they're working on, the consolidation. Another threat, along with Korea, and the big one as far as denuclearization, will be Iran.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so if Trump can get this North Korean solved, his next step is going to be Iran. And then he's got the players set up for that. And that's Pakistan, China, India, and Turkey.
He could. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. I don't even think I'm going out on a limb and say it, but he could very well be the first president in the history of the world to get world peace. That would not surprise me.
No, I think
I think that's very possible.
I think it is possible, and it's a development of relationships, not only with the United States, but relationships with countries with one another, which is happening in the Mideast.
Exactly.
Egypt, Jerusalem,
all those countries,
Lebanon, Iraq.
All those Mideastern countries.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so their leaders are now seeing the value of changing the radicalism and Islam represents, because there's a part of it that they can go, which joins the modern world.
Sure.
Basically, in fact, I read it the other day where one of them mentioned that we have to, in the Mideast leader, we have to modernize Islam to the modern world.
See, that makes sense.
Now,
It makes nothing but sense.
he didn't say give up Islam.
he
didn't say throw the religion away.
No.
He said modernize it to the modern world. And I don't think anybody would ask any more than that, would they?
No.
Because Islam is a violent, up till now, has been a violent representation.
Oh, my goodness.
So I don't know. I feel pretty optimistic about that. Trump got back from that trip in China, spent 12 days. And, I mean, there was a tremendous amount accomplished over there. And
I knew there would be.
And so where we're at now is with the Saudi, and now what we're at is hammering and getting ready to hammer and purge our nation of what has been a detriment for the last, let's say 40, 50 years.
That'd be a positive thing.
Our nation's not always been this corrupt. It's the most corrupt that it has ever been.
How's this going to affect? Let me ask you this, because you're the expert in here, and I was thinking about this as you were talking about purging the swamp. How's this? That's going to affect the stock market in a positive way, I think, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Here's the thing about the stock right now: is say you're an investor in the stock. You have your pension money in it or something. Okay. The stock market will react violently and negatively if the tax plan is not passed.
Yeah.
I watched it the other day.
Oh, yeah. I can see that.
Well, it's just like this one guy said he's not going to vote for the tax plan. That market dropped 200 points in the pair seconds.
I read that.
You
Yeah.
see? So I look at it this way. If I was an investor right now out there and wanted to play this thing safe, that market has gone up tremendously since Trump, right?
Oh, yes. It's his election.
25% or something ridiculous.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Higher than it's ever been.
So what I would do is I would take my money out of the stock market.
Oh, you would, Gary?
Oh, absolutely. Why? Because I don't know for sure that they're not going to they're going to be able to pass that tax plan.
That's right. You know that's going to be, like you said, it'll be
What if they don't?
Yeah. Then it'll be a violent reaction.
But what if they do? Then I'll just buy it again, put my money back. But I don't have my money hanging out there exposed to a possibility that they will not pass
How
it.
drastic do you think that'll be?
Well, I think the market could go down to 16,000, easy enough.
Whoa.
I mean, not in one day, of course, but
Yeah.
yeah,
That's a
I
lot.
think it can go down to 16,000. Of course, I remember when 16,000 was an unheard of threshold.
Yeah.
But it could correct to that. Okay. Now, if you do not pass the tax break, that's going to prevent a lot of. It has a snowball effect in preventing a lot of things that are being counted on, which is companies coming back to the United States. They won't have
Based
an
on
incentive.
that, yeah, because
And people bringing trillions back to the United States. There's no incentive to do that either. So you're going to dry up the money in terms of that in a heartbeat. So as a walk in the street investor, get out right now. You've made a ton of money.
Just wait.
And wait. Okay, if the thing drops, like I think it would if it didn't pass the tax, then you've made your profit, and you are no longer putting your account at risk. Now, if the tax is passed, boom, get back on there, get back on the train. But there's a time to get off the train. I can't think of a better time right now.
Oh my gosh!
Because we don't know what them goofy
advice.
congressmen and senators are going to do, because they're not going to do what you.
How
do.
does it look right now, Gary, as far as passing or not passing?
I don't really.
I tried to figure it out the other day.
Yeah.
And I've heard different things.
I don't know. You read one side and the other.
Yeah.
And let me put it like this: from a common sense standpoint, I don't see how in the world anyone.
I know. I agree with you too. I've read it.
You read it. And how can anyone not be for having more of his money himself than giving it to somebody else?
Everything is laid out in almost layman's terms.
Jeez.
You know, my goodness. Read
I
it.
mean, Ray, if you're sitting there and you're working, why do you feel that somebody else, and the somebody else being the government, which you can see with how they waste money and all, why is it that you feel that they know more about what to do with your money than you do?
That's the sad part, isn't it?
I mean, you got to be a sad individual
Yes, you do.
to think you don't want your taxes lowered and vote against having your tax. You got to be one sorry individual.
I don't understand it. I really don't.
It's because of controls and power, and the more we are taxed, and I don't care if it's $1. The more we are taxed, the more control we turn over to them.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And who is them? Well, them is the people that get the money. And what do they do with it? They exercise their power, and they exercise their own wealth, which we're right back to what we got in Washington today.
Absolutely.
So, Ray, a lot of people don't realize this, but this country's greatest achievement was when the Mayflower hit there until 1913. The country, up to that point, the achievement going from nothing but a rock at Plymouth Rock to where with the industry and all the development in those 100 and some years was greater than anything.
It's monumental.
You can't even. No country, nowhere else in the world has ever this happened with that. I mean, we passed nations like that have been around since.
I know.
Since Abraham, and stuff. So. I mean, we just accomplished railroads, factories. I mean, it was unbelievable. What did we not have during that entire time? We did not have an income tax. The first income tax was 1913.
That's right. That's
so
right. And we prospered. Everyone prospered.
Well, then how in the world, how did this country prosper without an income tax? Listen to these dorks today. So if a guy sitting there says, well, we got to raise your taxes, in order for us to do it, I says, well, then how in the world did this country ever get off Plymouth Rock? It should have stayed right there.
Really?
Because the people got to keep their own money.
Yeah.
So they had the incentive to do something with it. Make more money.
Exactly.
And enjoy the fruits of life that all that brings, right? So when somebody comes up to me and tells me, oh, no, we got to raise your taxes, it's like, man, I don't know. My mind just draws like how can this person be that big of a fool?
I keep thinking about what Henry David Thoreau said a long time ago. I think he was in a pub and someone said to him, they said, it's the American way to pay taxes, and he said it's un-American to pay taxes.
Absolutely. I mean, if you go back 1913, not that long ago, in comparison to when the country first started, and then you look at the progress. Now, we've had a lot of progress, true,
Absolutely.
But it's not going to compare to the kind of thing that happened to this country to get it to 1913.
Yeah.
Then what was the tax even then? The tax was 1%. That was the only bracket. And what was it for? It was a temporary tax to finance World War I. But what happened? Once the politician realized that he could stick his snorkel in the public trough, it's over.
That's right. That's
It's
right.
over.
Exactly what happened.
And look how high it has gone from 1%, and was supposed to be repealed.
Yeah.
But once they got that little taste of that,
Yeah.
it was like alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
And so
They
here-
became addicted.
and I tell you what, I look at it differently. I look at it, despite our taxes, look what how well our country's doing. Despite
point,
our
Gary.
taxes, as opposed to because of taxes,
Yeah.
this is how good we're doing. No. And the politicians and who they serve, which in the last 40, 50 years has not been the American people. It's been serving the corporations, the multi-internationalists, the globalists, the Uniparty, the big club, you name it.
Yeah, whatever you want to
It
call it.
has nothing to do with Democrats or Republican. That's for us little people out here to worry about Democrat, Republican. Those people don't worry about Democrat, Republican. All they care about is who can get elected in that district. Or let's say I'm one of those oligarchs, right? I said, "We're in Fresno. Who can get elected in that?" Well, I think old Ray Johns could. Oh, really? Yeah, because he's well known, blah, blah. And then they go like this. I go like this, and I says, "Is he Republican or Democrat?" No, they say, "Oh, by the way, he's Democrat, or he's Republican." I'm sitting there, the oligarch, right? I said, "Well, it doesn't matter to me what he is. Can you get him elected? Because I could buy him out."
Yeah.
So I don't care what you are.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and so they do this all over the country.
Sure.
And then what they do is you go back there with a good intention, but you're only going to last about 30 days with that good intention, and all of a sudden, the money starts coming
Sure.
your way for doing what you are being told to do. All right? Then you
It's
sit there
all-
and you still stammer a little bit, you know? And then, but all of a sudden you say, no, I'm serving the people. And they say, "Well, Ray, do you remember that time when...
Yeah, they got that little tidbit of information
you
on
remember
you.
that
Gotcha.
time when you stole third base?"
You literally stole it. Gary, we're going to take a little break, and we'll be back, ladies and gentlemen, say 2 and 2.
Today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes in Minnesota.
Okay, I'm back with Gary, and we were just talking when we were gone here, and I'm gonna turn it over to Gary. He's gonna kind of give you a little analysis on Donald Trump. So, Gary, go ahead.
Well, I mean, to think about what's happening right now and how this is, how he has, I guess you might say, formulated this, or something. But you'll notice the fake news and how more and more people are finding the fake news that less and less meaningful or significant.
Oh, yeah.
Or seen in a different light.
Yeah, I think we talked about that a few weeks back.
And we have talked about it. And what it reminds me of, like they have the press conference, that thing is a waste of time. But what it has done, Trump doesn't argue that. He doesn't fight that. What he does is he kind of lets them just go about it themselves and let them destroy themselves, in essence, or whatever, and really has
And look
doesn't pay
what's
much more
happening.
time. Think about this when you was a kid, and you got two couples come over, okay, and they're sitting on the porch and they're discussing adult things, but they got a bunch of kids. Well, those kids are all playing there in the play yard.
Yeah.
And they're just raising all kinds of dickens, right? And then they start tattletaling. Well, Johnny pulled my hair. And the other one says, well, my daddy can beat your daddy and all that. But they're all out there fussing. And every now and then they came in and complain.
Yeah.
But the adults, the two couples sitting there on that rocking chair, they just kind of, okay, go on and play. They just kind of pacify, and they leave them out there. And they can basically do about anything else, but anything they want, but kill each other.
Yeah.
You know? And it's of no importance. It doesn't interfere with what they're talking about in this conversation. In fact, there might be constructive things going on with that, such as, are you aware that Farmer John's got his place for sale and you've been thinking about buying it? Oh, well, I didn't know that. And they're passing information that is useful. Or you could make, if you add this to your chocolate cake, it's going to do this. Okay. But those kids are not, it doesn't mean anything what they do. And they fuss and they fight and they get bloody noses and they get all this. and you just sit back and let him go. And that's what Trump's doing. He's on that rocking chair talking adult things with other people
I love it. That's
that
a
are
great
sitting
analogy.
in rocking chair, and all that
It is a
fake
great
news
analogy.
press is just all those kids playing out there in the playground, and then they come in with their tattletale, right? And it doesn't amount
And he
to
just,
anything.
yeah.
And he goes on and gets it.
That I like that. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
And that's basically what he's done. If you'll notice, he doesn't. People will say, "Gee, that doesn't seem to bother him." Well, no, because he's taking care of what is really important. And what is really important to who? Always Americans first.
Absolutely.
Always.
Absolutely.
Never lose sight of that, even when he's in the middle of China.
Yeah.
In fact, he tells the Chinese, he told them, he says, "Oh, look, I'm here. It's America first. And you should feel the same way about yourselves."
Absolutely. He said that the time
Yeah.
before when he went, too.
Right.
I remember.
So, Ray, I think that it's things are being accomplished. You asked about the tax thing, and
Look at the economy. Look at the economy. The best it's been in a long, long time.
well, Ray, you're talking about trillions and trillions
Yeah.
of dollars that won't come here if the tax thing
Oh, I know.
is not passed. I mean, it's just so bad
Yeah.
if it's not passed. But looking at it from a personal standpoint, as if you're a person in the market, my advice is get out and wait. And if it passes, fine, go back.
This man knows what he's talking about when it comes to stock market, believe
But
me.
why be sitting there? You just ask, and I don't know the answer. You don't know. Well, none of us do. Will it pass or will it not pass? What do you think? Do you think it'll pass or no? I don't care what. Let's just say I don't care what, because my money's in a cave somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm going to wait till I know for sure. So why be putting yourself in jeopardy?
It's going to put this country in such
Then
great shape
it
if
could
if
go
it does
either way,
pass.
you know.
If it does pass, it's going to do wonders for this country.
Well, it's going to be tremendous, and
Wonders for this country.
And that's just the beginning, because down the road, as it goes, it'll be reduced more. Because it's back to that deal. When was the country become the greatest? The greatest accomplishment was with no tax. Now we know there should be, in a modern society as it is, there should be tax. After all, we're not putting wood, in our stove and
Yeah.
stuff like, and the infrastructure and the benefits that we have now
Sure.
that those people did not have.
Yeah.
And it's worth something, obviously.
Certainly.
I don't think any of us are sitting there wanting to go back to something like that. But there has to be the problem is all that money has corrupted politicians to no end.
Absolutely.
And
This
you
is-
take the state of California, and it is incredible. But
There's so much corruption in the state.
Oh, this state
It's
is
probably
bad.
the worst.
If
If not, it's
Right.
it's followed closely by probably New York or someplace like
Well, the other side of it too, Ray, there's got to be sovereignty means freedom, and all sovereign nations at one time had the freedom, but the communism is the world order,
that. Sure.
the Marxism, and which is what a lot of libtards are for, and why they're for that, I have no idea. I think it's naive and gullibility, really.
Could be.
But here's the thing: look at the Soviet Union when it took over. I mean, there's countries there I can't pronounce, you can't pronounce, that they took over. At one time, they were individual sovereign nations. Look what happened to Europe when it went all euro. At one time, they were sovereign nations.
Sure they were.
And look at even China. There was sovereign nations within those. And if you go around and look at all the countries in the world that communists takes over, they take that sovereignty away from the people. What do they then have? They have central control, and it's all about central control, central control, central control. Who's running it? Like North Korea is an example. There's three classes of people there. There's the upper class, middle class, and lower class. Well, who do you think the upper class is? Are they have any interest at all in helping the middle class or the lower class?
No.
Absolutely not. And if you look at the city, like the capital, these people down here aren't even allowed to go into the city.
I'll be darned.
A lot of people don't know that. They're
I
not even
didn't know
allowed to
that.
go in there.
I did not know that.
So is that the kind of thing that we want for America? I mean, when you start listening to some of these libtards and you start thinking about what are they for, it's just ridiculous, And I always ask the question this, and as a qualifier, I'll say, what is it that Trump wants for this country?
Oh, I love this question.
in terms of this, and that, whatever I want to say, that you do not want for yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want security in your city and stuff like that. I mean, it's ridiculous, right?
He's doing everything that he said he'd do.
Yeah.
Gary, he's doing one by one. He's doing absolutely everything.
And the things he's not doing is things that he's being prevented from doing.
Absolutely.
By who? Who's preventing him? It's got to be corrupt, crooked people.
Yeah.
Because the other side makes too much sense.
Yeah.
Why? Because the other side is not for me as an American. Who are you for? Well, corporate over in I don't know, somewhere in Africa or something. How come you're not for me? I'd ask a congressman. I got to ask you a question. I noticed you voted not to lower the tax. Who are you representing anyway? I thought you were representing me. And I says, who are you representing? Can you answer me that? Well, you can answer it, but you won't. So what we're going to do is take you to the courthouse, and we'll find out.
I love it. I love it.
But and it's back with this NFL thing, and they're making it. This is what gripes me, and I know it gripes you. Why do they always have to make it a white guilt, black victim deal? Doesn't that drive you crazy?
I've heard it so much that I don't even pay attention to that. I'm just so angry at the fact that it happens.
Well, that's me too. So I sit there and I think about it, Ray.
Yeah.
If you think about it, blacks have, we've said this before, blacks have got to stop thinking black, and whites got to stop thinking white with a white guilt, blacks with the victim.
Absolutely.
And blacks
I
got
agree with you
to
100%.
stop thinking as whites as white, and whites got to stop thinking of blacks as black. You got to think American.
Exactly.
I mean, and the
We've
rest.
talked about that a lot, and it's very true.
You make the color of someone, or the color of their eyes, we could go on and on with it. It doesn't have to just be this. It's racist when you do that.
Yeah.
Why
Absolutely.
is it that we can't sit here and just say, in fact, to the point you don't even notice it because you don't care? It's not even in your psyche.
That's when it's when it's done. You're right, Gary. Absolutely.
You don't even. It's not material. We got the same value. We both love America. We both are paid. We're both working hard. We both enjoy the same things.
But we're Americans first.
Yeah.
Okay? Americans first. Yeah. That's it. We're
and
Americans first.
We may have an interesting culture that we share with others instead of not sharing it.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? Why do I have to be forced with it? No, I don't have to be forced with it. You don't either.
Yeah.
And and it doesn't matter. And so when people stop thinking of color of any kind and start thinking of one.
We talked about that. I talked on one show almost a year ago about what could happen if this country got together, if you just gave up all this nonsensical bull crap,
Well, and what we have to realize, too, that all countries, like Japan as an example, and Korea, are more prejudiced than we are, even today. In Korea, you got 3 classes of people. In Japan, you got classes of people, and they're extremely, anywhere. Africa, you got classes of people, and they're extreme prejudice involved in all these countries. Sure. In Arabia, you got the kings, 15,000 family members, compared to
all the way down to the laborers.
And if they're, even as much as they complain, what those kneelers complain, as much as they do, this is still the least prejudice of any nation.
Yeah.
Even Russia's prejudices. And so I think people have to realize that, man, we have got a free deal that is being incited daily all the way through our school system and everything to keep that division. And how does that benefit? It benefits the multinationalists, the globalists.
They're the only people that
the establishment
benefit from it.
Yeah, and you can't be in the big club. Now, one of the things about America is if anybody can be in the big club is anybody and everybody that ever. But no, they're trying to create this system and that I blame that not on just the Democrats and not on just the Republicans. I blame that on all the elites, establishment that are benefiting by the corruption and being crooked. And Hillary took that as an entitlement.
Oh, of course she did.
She took it on herself to be
Absolutely.
entitled to be a crook.
Yeah.
That's, from bottom line, she
That's
said,
the
hey,
epitome of arrogance, isn't it?
well, of course it's arrogance to no end. And it's pathological and it's psychopathy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you read about what psychopathy really belongs, the psychopath, and then you read about Hillary, you're not going to see any difference.
I'm sure you're right.
But don't think of the psychopath, just because you could be psychopathy and not be a murderer.
Yeah.
In fact, most psychopaths are not murderers.
Oh, I
at
know,
all,
yeah.
You see.
Yeah.
But she has all the symptoms of it,
Yeah.
all the criteria, I should say.
But she is a murderer.
And she is a murderer. She goes all the way. And we've talked about this before. There is no one on death, which is all psychopaths on death row, and there's no one on there that they're all innocent. There's no one there guilty. Because by God, if you handed the money at 9 instead of 11, I wouldn't be sitting here in prison. You'd be alive today.
Absolutely.
So they can't accept accountability or responsibility. And had Hillary quietly quit and went into, when she lost the election, and went into the private life of what she had the opportunity to do, instead of doing what she's doing, my Lord, if she realizes the lives she is ruining by her sticking around, I'm talking about Democrats.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She got to be the worst thing in the world for if you're a Democrat crooked politician.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, she is just bringing the attention to where there's a lot of Democrats who are going to be, are going to have to, I don't know, they might end up in jail even because of she keeps yapping her mouth.
Sure.
And she could have quietly gone into the sunset, but no, she's too arrogant for that, and she's too much of a psychopath for that.
I think they're going to nail her. I think Trump's going to nail her eventually. I do. And I know everyone says, no, it's never going to happen. I think it's got to.
Well, here's the thing. If it doesn't happen, then it's a real mark on us.
It is a mark on us.
All Americans.
It is a mark on all
because
Americans.
then that means that we have two laws, one for you and one for me.
Yeah.
But there's so much corruption with people that maybe you don't think are corrupt, that are being corrupted right now. That's the hard part. You see a congressman on there or a senator. They have these committees. But let's think about those committees. How many have they had? That's all been dog and pony show. Has anything ever come out of it yet?
No.
Lois Lerner, the
Yeah.
IRS, on and on and
Yeah.
on. They put on this show, and for our
You're right,
entertainment.
it is a dog and pony show.
That's all it is,
exactly,
because
that's
there's
exactly
nothing
what
come
it
of
is. Yeah.
So it's like this Mueller,
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's a perfect example.
well, you ask the question, well, why does Trump hire somebody like Mueller, or why doesn't he fire him? And then you kind of look at the other side and say, well, maybe Trump wants Mueller to go, and why he went after Trump all this time. But in the meantime, come to find out, he has been investigating Hillary Clinton's, the uranium deal and so forth. Mm-hmm. So in the meantime, and then what does Trump get? He gets Mueller, a Democrat. He hired, who does Mueller hire? All Democrat lawyers. And now we go into a trial. They have to recuse themselves because of conflict of interest.
Brilliant. So you think about it. It's just brilliant.
He nullified all those top Democrats against something that would have to go, if they were to go to court, they'd have to just back out of the case. Conflict of interest. So it's been quite a show if you're interested. I mean, it's like I've heard on comments made, it's better than soap opera.
It sounds like it.
Well, it's interesting because it is an ongoing live thing, and it is all about our government. And
we've talked several times about being a part of what's going on and feeling the pulse of the country.
Right, and it is about our country.
Yeah.
And so, and this country has been through a lot of trials and tribulations over the years. We're just experienced probably one of the most profound since the Civil War.
Yeah.
That had to be
good times are coming. I'm real optimistic about the way things are going. I'm very optimistic about the way things are going.
And I think you have reason to be, and I think that we're going to be rewarded. And here's the bigger thing I think about.
Good.
I thought about this. What if you was a libtard? Look at the misery you're
I love
living.
that name. I love that name.
But look at the misery you're subjecting yourself to with all your envy and hate, right? And here on the other side, you're not one of the libtards. You're one of us. And think of all the joy and experience you're having. It's something that you're rejoicing in and optimistic about and feeling good about yourself, feeling good about your country, feeling good about your fellow man. Well, you do that every day when you talk to the policeman. Now, contrast that with the libtard's misery.
Yeah.
And what life do you want to live? Do you want to be the one that's sitting there mad all the time? You ever see good-looking people that are libtards? Not very often.
That I love.
Yeah. Why is that? I guess
No. But I got to.
he spent too much time in the mirror.
I'm going to tell you, that could be it. But I got to tell you something. And I was going to tell you earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you on the air. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, that Gary Miguel has got it. He said, he really comes out and says it, doesn't he? I said, yeah. I said, that's one of the things I love about him. He comes out and says it. And I said, are you a Republican? She says, I am not. I'm going to tell you the other day.
Oh, she said she's not, huh?
Yeah.
Well, then she's a libtard.
Oh, that's it. That's what it is.
You know what
She
you
said-
do? You
she
get
says,
down on
"I
your
hate
knees
that."
and you pray for it.
She says, I just hate that word, libtard.
Well, you know what? Don't be one.
Yeah, really. I thought, I can understand why. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you don't want to be a libtard, don't be
one.
one, because after all,
Oh my gosh. I was going to tell you about that earlier because I cracked up when she said that. It was hilarious. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we've come again. Every time Gary's on, the time just flies by. And that's what's happened again today. And I'm going to ask him, hope he can come back.
yeah, sure, Ray.
We love having him. He's very informative. I tell you, he makes me laugh. He's a great guy. Anyway, it's been a good show. And, Gary is come up with an idea. I think we're going to change the name of the show. I'm not going to tell you what it is until next week. We're going to announce it next week. But I think it's a good show. And he has some very good reasons. He thought, Ray, you ought to do this. And I talked it over with some other people, and I think he's right. Anyway, we'll talk about that next week. As we say every week, please go up to our men in blue. Please go up to our police officers and tell them how much we appreciate what they do, day in and day out, putting their lives out there on the line for something that none of us want to do. I certainly don't want to do it. I won't do it. But I certainly admire people who do. So please, go up and shake their hands, tell them how much we appreciate them, and believe me, you'll feel better. Gary did it. He loves it. He does it. I've got other people that call me all the time and tell me we're doing it, and man, it makes you feel good. And I had one guy tell me, he says, I'm on the way to work, and I'm looking for one, so I can say go up and I can't find one, And so I like that. Make an effort. Just it'll take a little bit out of your day, and it'll mean so much to a police officer. Do it. So until we meet joyously again next Friday at 3 p.m. with the name of the new show, heaven's blessings.
Hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, and New York to L.A., where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we